Hey, welcome back to Couples Drive, where married couples share their stories from when they met, courted, got married, and beyond. I'm your host, Atuboyan. I know it's been a few months since our last video with a married couple, and this time I'm very excited to be back with new set of videos with married couples, singles, marriage counselors, and even wedding planners to share their perspectives on marriage. And I can't wait to bring you the first video. So what do you say we get right to it? My first guest is Joycelyn&Harry from Virginia. They've been married for 4 years, and I was so happy they accepted my invitation to hitch a ride, and this is part 1 of my ride with them. Take a look. Hey guys.
Hi. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Oh, go on this side.
Hey.
Hi. How are you?
Good guys, thank you for making time to ride with me this very summer hot afternoon.
It's hot, yeah.
It is hot. It's about what, 90 something. Right? Alright, so welcome to Couples Drive.
Thank you.
And I'm very excited to have you guys. Guys, this is Joycelyn and her husband, Harry. And you guys have been married for almost 4 years.
Almost for next week.
Next week is
4 years.
What date? 19.
Better have remembered.
Wow. Harry, do you have any plans for your 4th year anniversary?
It's a surprise.
Well, Joycelyn, make sure you hold him up.
He has no surprise. I'm not even worried. At this point in time, I'm kind of like, whatever. I know it's not a surprise. He's not the surprising type, and it's okay.
Well, congratulations on your upcoming 4th year anniversary.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
How has the journey been like? 4 years. Of course,
the journey's been interesting. I think for me, that journey has been interesting. How about you?
I think it's been just like regular life.
You really?
Yeah, there has been ups and downs.
That's true.
Like just a regular human being. You have days that you're very excited.
Mm-hmm.
You have days that you are very down and depressed. So it goes up and down. It's not like a straightforward road.
Right.
But I'll say that being married is very, very. It's a very interesting thing, and if you don't have patience, you can't do it as a human being.
Yeah.
It requires a lot. It requires patience. It requires you to always make the conscious effort or conscious decision to love the person and stay with the person.
That's true.
So I think that is what has kept us for these 4 years. That conscious decision and conscious effort to always stay together and know that the consequences affect you and somebody else, not just by yourself.
Yeah.
If I'm single and I'm at work and I'm not coming home till 12, I come home, it's just by me, I have nobody to answer to.
No accountability.
Yes. But now if you're at work and it's 7 o'clock,
And I'm calling.
you start rushing, you start looking at your phone. So
That she bugged you when it's past 7 and you are not there?
It bothers me, and work comes with deadlines, and you also have deadlines to meet. So that's why it's a conscious effort. So you have to always be thoughtful and know that, okay, even though I have deadlines, I also have my wife at home.
Yeah.
At least call and let her know, you are being late and all those things.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah.
Joyce, is it the same for you?
Yeah, I think for me, I've had to be very intentional, in my things, in terms of what I say, what I do, how I feel, how I react to things, in terms of marriage. I think that there's a lot of things that I walked into marriage with this perception of that I had to kind of unlearn and unthink. And then because it was natural and a part of who I was, I had to be very intentional to make sure that this is how you feel about it. This is what you do with it, but this is not necessarily what it is. So that intentionality it's very key.
And I think that comes from the facade that, people create about marriage. So,
what do you mean?
I mean, people make marriage feel like a fairy tale. So some people go into marriage thinking it should be A, B, C, D, like it's a formula. They have like certain expectations.
Yes.
I'm not saying as a human being you have to have, set expectations, but they have these unrealistic expectations of the person they are going to be with.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, you are going to start a new life with a person.
Did you have one of those expectations for?
I didn't. She had.
I did.
Yeah. From the onset, I knew that she has been raised by a different family for 24 years before I met her, and I have been raised in a different environment. So we coming together, there will be some ups and downs. So whenever we get into trouble and stuff, I stay very calm. But she, because of the expectations, she doesn't.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
So, and that's why I'm saying that before you even get into marriage, you have to make that conscious effort and know that things are not going to go smooth for you. Things are going to go ups and downs. So you have to make that conscious effort.
Yeah. And just adding to what you said though about like the person has been married to a different family, right? For me, I come from a family that's very straightforward. Everybody speaks their mind, says what's on their mind, and that's it, right? Like, if you sit in a session with my family, you think we're fighting. But it's literally that everybody is just talking about their emotions and how they feel, so everybody feels like they're heard. He's from a very quiet family, where people don't really, from my observation, you don't really do that. It's always, "Enyeshe," it's okay. So now, married, these are two different people. I need to talk now. He is... okay, waka, sorry. No, it's not about being sorry. It's about, I need you to understand what I'm upset about. So just understand, I had to really understand that, he's a processor. There are going to be days where he's not going to give me an answer right away. And I had to learn to be like, Joycelyn, it's okay. If he doesn't give you an answer right now, he's thinking about it. Doesn't mean he doesn't care. When he's ready to come to you with an answer, he will. And it can be frustrating, but I think over the years I've learned to just let him have his time to think versus give me an immediate answer, because it's going to be an answer that's based off of a reaction of me wanting an answer, not something that's genuinely thought out or something that he truly feels, So, and I want his genuine answer to something, not just one that's given to me out of a reaction. So
Joyce, let me ask you this. How was their transition from being a single young woman, to becoming a wife for you?
The transition, which I'm still going through, it was hard, right? And it was hard because I know a lot of people who really know me don't know, well, not really, people who are far and are not really close to me don't know there's a side of me that automatically wants to be a good mother, a good wife. So I had this idea of what a wife should do, what a wife should be in my head, because that's how my parents raised me, right? All these things were in my mind. Okay, this is what it means to be a wife, but maybe that was not the kind of wife Harry needed, right? So I struggled with that, trying to be the wife that Harry needed versus what I felt I needed to be as a wife. And then for us, we got pregnant 6 months after we got married. And then it was like, I have really hard pregnancies where like I'm literally on bed rest my whole pregnancy. Most of the time, throwing up, losing weight. So it was like, now the time we have to really grow as a couple, we're going through this really horrid pregnancy. He's also working like crazy. It was just a lot. So it was interesting.
Harry, what was the adjustment like?
For me, the adjustment was pretty okay for me. What I struggle with is for her to adjust. So, because for me, I adapt to things easily.
Very easily.
I'm like, okay, we'll figure it out. We'll make it work. But the hardest part is for her to understand that, you have to adjust to things. You understand?
Right.
She said something that, as a good wife, when your husband comes home from work, food has to be ready and all that. I'm a reasonable person. You get she gets back from work around 7. I'm getting back around 8:30. I don't expect you to get in 7:30, start cooking right from work.
Okay.
I'll be okay if we cook on Saturdays and Sundays, keep it in the fridge. And then, but she thinks that she has to come home, stand on her feet and cook. You understand? So those are some of the adjustments that we are making and figuring ourselves out.
Yeah.
Can we backtrack a little bit and tell me how you guys met?
That is my ultimate favorite question.
It
too.
is?
Oh my goodness.
All right,
I may get some confessions today because I feel like I've been getting a
All
lot throughout
right,
today.
so-
I want him to start in this
Why don't
situation
you start?
because I feel like you would say the same thing I said because I want you to say it. I want to make sure it's the same story I get.
Same story.
Yes, boss.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Harry, how did you guys meet?
It's a very interesting way we met.
All right, let's get it started.
So I used to travel a lot for work when I came here first. So I traveled and I made a stop over in Ghana coming back. And then I met a friend who was working with a group of people. And Joycelyn was part of the people.
In Ghana?
In Ghana, yes.
I was?
At the airport. But she didn't see me. So they left and then I went with a friend too. The friend sings. So I went with him to his office, right? And then
Confessions, what? I'm hearing additions to the story
and
today.
then we're going through his laptop and stuff.
Have you ever told her this?
No.
No, she knows about it.
No, I
I
don't.
told you I saw your picture.
You told me you saw my picture. The
Yeah.
airport part. I'm like, that makes sense. Because we were at the airport. So, yes, you did see me at the airport. Go ahead.
Okay.
So we're going through the pictures, and then I saw her picture, and I'm like, oh, can I be friends with your friend?
Yes,
And
friends.
yes, and then he said, oh, even this girl, she's in the US, so it's easier for you to, talk to her since you're also in the US. So that is when I came back, I didn't talk about it for about a month. So one time I was talking to him on Skype, and I said, hey, can I have the girl's number? And then he gave it to me, and that day I called Joyce that same day.
That very day.
That very day, yeah. So.
What did you tell her when you called?
I don't.
Okay, so I called and I said, okay, I got your number from Buachi Yadom. That's my friend's name. I got a number from Buachi Yadom, and I want us to be friends. She was actually surprised, and for some reason she couldn't remember who that person was. I think
Because there's Apostle Yadom. So I was thinking Apostle Yadom had given him my number. So I was like, okay. Go ahead.
So so that was when we started talking, and everything kicked off from there.
Joycelyn, do you remember the first call?
Yeah, I do. Hi, can we be friends?
Can we be friends? And what was your response?
No, I have enough friends.
Is that what you said? She said?
No, that's not.
That's not what I said.
Harry, when you sent that message, was that your intention that someday you would want to marry her?
With that text message, no, that wasn't my intention. But after we talked on the phone, that is when that came into play.
When did you first call to have a voice or a verbal conversation with her after the
I think
test?
it was the next day.
Harry, are you sure your mind wasn't already made up?
No.
You called her the next day after the text message?
Yeah. The reason I remember is that the next week afterwards, I was going on a trip to DC. At that time, I wasn't here. I was in Williamsburg.
So she was in Minnesota and you were in
Williamsburg, Virginia, yeah.
Okay.
So we had a trip to DC from school. So it was when I was in DC, that was when my mind was made up. That's why I remember that the text wasn't when my mind was made up.
Okay.
So it was when I started talking to her, we started having conversations, and then, I got to know her mind. That was when that decision came in.
How long did it take you to get to know her mind?
Within a week.
Within a week?
I'm a straightforward person.
And I also asked a lot of questions.
Yeah, he does.
Right. So the questions is what, got me to know her very well.
Yeah. And it's funny that he says that because I remember a little bit better than you. Sorry. He's kind of old. Let me tell the story. No, but so yeah, he did call me the next day, and I was a bit hesitant to pick up, and I told myself that I'm not going to spend more than 15 minutes on the phone with this man. So literally, I acted like I was so busy, even though I had nothing to do. I was just like in my house lounging around, and I only gave him 15 minutes of my time. And we just talked about like different things and various things that were happening. And I remember it was a week later, he was like, oh, I really think that I want to marry you. What do you think about it? And I think I told him, excuse me, I don't know you. You don't know me. What makes you know that I'm the one for you? And, he said a lot. And I took it and I told him to give me a week so I could really pray about it, fast about it. And then I'll give my answer within a week. If that's the direction that I wanted to go in. So the first person I called was my dad. He sent me so when he got to DC, he sent me a picture of himself in a suit standing, where were we? The Treasury Bank or somewhere. Typical. Yeah. He just stood by it, took me a picture.
His best shot.
Yes. So he sent it, and I sent it to my dad, and I sent it to Pastor Frank. Those are the two people that I sent it to. And I told my dad that, this is a guy, he said he wants to marry me. I want you to pray with me and let me know what you think. And then I also did the same with Pastor Frank. And when I called Pastor Frank, he literally was like, okay, let's pray about it, and then let's see what God reveals to all of us. So after a week, I talked to both my dad. After me praying, talked to Pastor Frank, and I had this anxiousness, but this sense of calm. I don't know if that makes sense, right? The anxiousness was I didn't know what was going to come. But I knew that there was a sense of peace around the decision that I had made. To say, okay, fine, let's move ahead and let's get married. So I know
that was a week after.
A week after.
Yeah, because for me personally, I think marriage is a very huge decision.
Yeah.
But I also don't think it's something that you have to be hesitant about. Because I think if you know, you know. I don't
You think so?
Yes, I think if you know, you know. I think if you waver a lot about it, that's when it gets you somewhere that you don't have to get to. You understand? I wouldn't say she's the first girl I dated. You understand? I dated before her, but then I knew it when I started talking to her. You understand? As she said, that sense of calmness and that sense of peace. It doesn't mean that person is the best person you've ever met in the world. But then you know that no matter what you guys go through, everything will be okay. That is, for me, that is what led me to that decision.
I see.
I didn't think that she's not trouble, which she is. She's a lot of trouble. But then, besides all that trouble, I knew that, everything is going to be okay.
Yeah.
So how was the proposal like?
Proposal.
And she doesn't want to hear about it. It was.
Please. Don't tell the story.
She doesn't want me to remember that story, but it was in a trotro in Ghana. So, with all said and done, we went to Ghana in 2013 together.
Okay.
To go meet my family, and meet his family, and.
So when we went to Ghana in a trotro, and then that's when
As he was fake proposing to me in a trotro, some other girl was trying to get his number. Can you believe this? Can you imagine?
Wait, seriously?
Seriously. She was seriously trying to get the phone number.
We got a ring
custom made.
Yeah. So
at that point, families were
already knew. Everybody knew.
So when we went for the ring, she was like, you didn't even kneel down to propose to me. And that's when I turned around her in the trotro and I said, okay.
The fact that he says this like it's okay.
Wait, wasn't it romantic to you?
No,
it wasn't.
I didn't. And the fact that when he tells the story, and I'm like, wait, that was my proposal. Like the trotro was my proposal.
I don't think it is though.
Please no, it was not.
I mean, that is one place you would not expect him to go on it, right?
But the point is, at least you should have had my family there. The typical, typical engagement. So I didn't want any of that stuff. I didn't like any of that stuff.
I don't believe in that. That's why.
Okay, so
getting people
like,
together and getting all the
wherever. Yeah. You guys living together. Was he everything you dreamt about?
Was he everything I dreamt of?
Or you had to take him to the shop to get some repairs made?
Jesus.
My whole closet, every suit I own. The worst one was my $600 suit from Bruce Brothers. Was thrown out.
Why?
Because it was said
it was oversized. When I met him, he was a size 15, in shirts. And this man was wearing 17 and a half. So I'm like, where are you going? Like, where? So there was a lot of changes that happened, like in terms of, you know, how he dresses, and things like that. But I think, and when he talked about the understanding piece, for me, when we finally lived together, my own expectations, and honestly, I placed Harry on this ladder. Like, this man can do no wrong. He's perfect. He's the best man I've ever had in my life. He was all these amazing things that I did not factor into the equation that he is a human being, right? Who is capable of making mistakes and who's capable of also hurting me. So when hurt came, for me, it hit really hard because I put him on this pedestal that was unfair, you know, and very, very unrealistic looking back now. Like, he's a human being. Of course he's going to make mistakes. Of course he's going to hurt you. And I think maybe if I hadn't done that, when things happen, it would have been easier to get over, you know, and kind of deal with, versus the fact that I had to deal with the shock of, this is not the person that I thought he was, you know, and before even really dealing with what had happened. So, yeah, that's me.
Harry, living with her for 4 years.
Easy. Easy breezy.
What have you discovered that made you probably want to say to yourself, did I make the right choice?
Okay. So
he said, okay, let's get it started.
Let's start.
I want to start from where you ended the question. The thing is that I don't want to say I'm a human being of no regrets. I think everything is fixable. So even though I see things, there's no point in time that I say that, oh, I shouldn't have made this decision. Okay. Yeah. As I said, for me, I was very open to anything could happen. I can see this girl, marry her, she can be a serial killer. You understand?
I am a serial killer.
But I will say that there was a lot of adjustments. If you're living with your parents and you get married and you move in with your wife, I think that is a little bit easier because you're living with people. When you move out and you're living by yourself and you have all this freedom, all this independence, and then you suddenly move in with another person, not just a roommate, but somebody who is worried about you when you're not home, somebody who is worried about you when you're traveling, you have to adjust to that. Like, let's say I'm traveling. Our first 2 years of marriage, I was traveling a lot for work. Every step that I get to the airport, I have to text her. I get on the plane, I have to text her. So adjusting to those things, you know, that was my biggest challenge. You know, like me traveling somewhere, when I get to the place, I have to let her know before I go to sleep and all that. So those adjustments, because I have been independent for a while before we got married. Okay. Yeah. So those adjustments was the difficult part for me. But when it comes to house things and stuff, I think she's very good, you know, like cook, cleaning, taking care of the kids, making sure the house is okay. I think for that part, she was okay with it.
And Joycelyn, I mean, you're a family therapist, right?
Yes.
That's your profession. And Harry says something that I think is very important. Like, when you live with your parents and you move from that household to get married, it's different. He lived as a single guy by himself, and you lived with your parents. So from your professional point of view, do you think that plays a role, living with your parents and moving out?
I think living with your parents for your formative years.
Hey, welcome back. That was part 1 of my ride with Joycelyn and Harry, and as usual, I hope you learned something from them. Please make sure you subscribe to our YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook pages so that you'll be notified once new videos are posted. I'll see you next week with part 2 of my ride with Joycelyn and Harry. Until then, let's keep love alive.